Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to part 2 of the conversation with Bharadwaj Rangan. In this episode, we'll be talking about Mani Ratnam and especially a very funny incident involving Mani Ratnam. You'll also get to know how BR deals with trolls, some of his favorite interviews, how he looks at all of his past work and how he creates content on YouTube, and also how he's going to be involved with the film industry in the future. If you want to listen to the entire audio version, please head on over to Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. The links are in the description, or you can just continue watching here. Welcome back to the canteen and enjoy the conversation. So, this is one of the greatest things I've read because very, very honest. I don't mean to just flatter you. The thing is, usually I was used to reading fiction and stuff, Harry Potter and stuff. I have not read much before that. I used to wait in line for Harry Potter, nothing else. Maybe these Goosebumps series and everything.
Yeah, I'm a big
Then
Harry Potter fan, by the way.
yeah, that's
I'm a
amazing.
major
But
Harry Potter fan. I have all his book. I have all the books there. I love the books.
so apart from those books, I've not really read that much, except the odd, these books you have to read in school, like this Jules Verne and Tom Sawyer, all of these books and everything. So this was right at the time I was in college, and I was getting really into movies, and that time Mani Ratnam was like the biggest thing for me. We used to watch. I didn't want to interrupt you that time because you were in such a zone talking about Nayagan. But me and my friend, we used to watch Nayagan every single day. Like every single day after college, we used to come back and when I discovered this book, the structure, everything was completely different. Like I've never seen a book which is like conversations. So where did the idea for this come from, and what was this experience like of someone who you've grown up watching and then recorded conversations over so many, I don't know how many months or years, or how long it took? What was this like?
I'm not sure about the period it took. Maybe a year, I guess, because he something had got shelved. I think they were supposed to make Ponniyin Selvan, if I'm not mistaken, and that had gotten shelved. And Ravanan had just gotten over, and Ponniyin Selvan was supposed to happen, but was not happening. And he was still writing with Jaymohan for Kadal. And Penguin saw an article, my review of Ravanan. See, this is where newspapers help because it has this huge design and like it's like on big page, and it just comes across. And so they saw my review of Ravanan, and they said, where I had referenced all Mani's movies, and they said, why don't you write a book on Mani Ratnam? In my head, I had heard that I had met Mani once or twice before. So like while going to Madras Talkies, we've said hi once or twice or something like that. But I've never like spoken to him. So, and I just thought, like everybody else would say, that he's very reticent. He doesn't, he doesn't speak much. He kind of doesn't do that and all that kind of stuff. The reason I went to meet him was basically it's just polite when you're writing listen, boss, I'm writing this book about you. And the way I think I want to structure this as a series of chapters on each movie, and maybe getting into some analysis about some of the themes that especially I love the way Mani Ratnam writes women. It's one of my if you ask me who's the best Indian mainstream director who writes women, for me it would be Mani Ratnam. And when I mean mainstream, I mean like not these slightly artsy fartsy kind of movies, like within like proper mainstream kind of a thing. One of my favorite scenes of all time is Aishwarya Rai telling Vikram, "Who the fuck are you to take my life? I'm going to take my own life and just jump over that thing." It still gives me goosebumps. Like when I saw it, I was like, "Oh my god, now that's a woman!" Just like no wonder he fell for her. So I had little themes like these, like bundled up and all that kind of stuff. So my basic idea was to kind of go to so tell him, listen boss, I'm writing this movie about you, and I'm also I might need some pictures or stuff like that, so if you could organize that from Madras Talkies, that's fine. So he basically said something that made me a little nervous. He said, why do you want to structure the book like that? So I said, because I don't know, it just seems like it's my book. I think the structure might work or something like that. But then he said, well, you like cinema, I like cinema. Why don't we just talk and see what happens? Suddenly, I was like a little taken aback because, first of all, I didn't even think. I thought he was just politely seeing me and like he's going to say all the best or something and send me off. And now he's actually saying, you like cinema, I like cinema. Let's just like talk and see what happens. So then I'm in a new zone because I'm like, will this man talk? Like, what do I ask him? How do I think? But then he started talking, and initially it was tough because I'm not a very today. The person you're seeing in front of me is something that I have evolved a lot over the years. I'm very introverted when it comes to meeting people and saying hello to them and things like that and all that.
I can relate. Yeah.
Uh, huh?
I can relate to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like you put me in front of a new person, I'd be like, what the hell, you know? So it's like, so the thing is, so the initial conversations up to, let's say, Idaya Koil were a little tough because, you know, they were also the boring bits, like, you know, what happened, how do you remember your childhood, this, that, all that kind of stuff, which you want to get out of the way because you really, I mean, boring as in not boring, but it's the stuff that you have to get through, but they're not really what you want, like to talk too much about kind of stuff. So, but when Maunaragam started happening, that's when I realized, wow, okay, so this book is happening. But the funny thing about the book, it involved a lot of editing, which people, it's not like I asked him this big question and he gave me this huge answer, like you know, kind of a thing. So you have to go to him and tell him, what is this question about? And in that particular day, he may not remember. But then, you know, when you're asking about another movie somewhere else, you bring up the same thing and that context might make him remember. So you then bring that back to this part. So that kind of stuff. It was a very interesting process for me and my editor to go through, because I have all the drafts of that book, and I keep teasing Money that one day I'm going to just make a fortune of it, of eBay. I have the tapes as well. So he would literally give me 1-line, 2-line answers. And then I'd be like, and he said, that's all there is. There's no more and. But then you'll find out that there is more and, because, you know, somebody, you know, like you'll find that out somewhere else and you bring it up here. But today, if we did this book, because I know him a lot better today, and he knows me a lot better today, it might be a very different book.
Right.
Because today it's like, you know, I'm like, earlier also, when you're in awe of a director who's like, I've told you about the Gautami Vetri generation of people who kind of, this Nayagan generation, right? We were just in awe of this man. So that was also a book written a bit in that awe, right? Today I'm much more casual when I speak to not just him but any director, I guess. I'm not in awe of any director. So like, I was able to tell him, like, you know, Chekka Chivantha Vaanam did not work for me. And there's a very funny incident about it. I'm not sure if I should narrate it now, but I won't. I think I sleep it. So actually, I will, because
you
it's
can,
a
yeah,
very
please.
funny incident, and it's like, it's just so. So Mani and I and Shiva, his assistant Shivanand, were having drinks somewhere, and so he was just asking me, so what happened? Why didn't you like it? This, that, and all that. So Shiva was like, boss, don't. Uh, Everything that this guy has liked has bombed for us. The first time is just like one of our films. It's actually running. It's actually became his biggest blockbuster. So Shiva's like, no, let him not like our films anymore. Just kind of because I love Katraveli Day, and it was one of his biggest bombs. I kind of like about 50 to 60% of Cuddle. That's another big bomb. I'm not that big a fan of OK Kanmani. That became a like quite a hit. So this reverse thing happening. So she was teasing me and all this kind of things happening. So we finish and we're coming down the elevator. And so this the elevator stops at a particular floor, and this waiter pushes his cart in, and he's just like, okay, taking a look at the other people there. He looks at me, whatever. Then he looks at Shiva, and then whatever. And then looks at Mani and like, Neenga Maniratnam Dana. Said, yeah, like Mani is nodding and he's saying, yeah, sir, unga Chekka Chivantha Vaanam, super pano, sir. He just said that, okay? Mani's first reaction is to point to me and said, Ad avarkitta sollunga. So we just burst out laughing, and because it was so funny, that he's such presence of mind, right? It's like, Ad avarkitta sollunga. Like, you know, because it's like, I'm the one who's like complaining about the movie nonstop. So that poor waiter would have just thought, I'm just telling him that he made such a great movie, and three people are just laughing like mad, like because obviously he didn't get the joke or whatever. But then later he took a picture and all that, so it was all
Right.
okay.
So is he
It was
is
just-
he generally like a funny guy like you describe it, or is
It's
he
very
that
funny.
shy, reticent?
I don't know. I find him very easy to. He's very funny, and when you're talking films with him, it's just so amazing because he just it's so which is what most of the time we talk about films. So it's just easy to talk about like films with. He's very easy to talk to. Vetri is very easy to talk to. Gautam is very easy to talk to. There are so many. Mishkin is very easy to talk to.
That masterclass is something I watch like every 3 months at least.
You
And I,
serious?
I
Thank
was
you.
I was I was watching it this weekend also because there is some guy on Twitter. He told me why don't you talk about the best feel good interviews that you've ever watched. So one of the first things that came up, like there are a couple of interviews, like Joe Rogan with Neil deGrasse Tyson, Jayalalitha's interview by Simi Garewal,
Simi Garewal.
and then the third thing, obviously Miskin's interview popped in mind. Of course, the S.J. Surya one also, but that's very, very fresh in my memory. So, and I just revisited it. And
But
you can
what is it about it that made it so different for you?
Miskin's interview? Miskin, this is the same thing I feel when I listen to Tarantino or any passionate person who talks about their craft, right? They talk about these references, they talk about these movies, these books, and everything as if no one else is listening. They're talking to themselves.
Yeah.
So it becomes like there's a sense of, it feels like therapy, but at the same time, it's like constant dopamine hits every time he mentions something new or something familiar that you've already heard of. Oh shit, I watched this, so maybe we connect on this level. So that is something that I really like. Getting back now, you've written this book, you've published so many reviews and everything in the print form, and then in just 3 years ago, this happened. Obviously, I've seen like a huge, like a difference between the Bharadwaj Rangan of that time and the latest S.J. Surya interview that I watched. What was transitioning from a print journalist to, coming in front of the camera, interviewing? The first interview was with Vetrimaran, which was around the Oscars, this thing.
Yeah. What is the transition like?
Yeah.
So Anu hired me for video as well as text. So choice was whether to enter that digital world or not. And today in hindsight, I'm like, oh my God, this is just such a gift that Anu offered me. Anu, my boss Anupama Chopra, that she offered me because it's just increased my following like anything. And there are people who never heard of me earlier who are listening to me and writing to me, and I would say it's been good in every possible way, except for the trolling and all, which you take seriously and personally the first few years, and then you learn to completely ignore it. So that's okay.
Do you read your comments and all now, or
for YouTube?
Yeah.
No, never. I never make those mistakes. No, the team takes care of it, and if there's something very funny, like they'll. I don't know, like I know Bharadwaj Rangan here looks like Indira Gandhi, something like that. Something very funny, they'll pass it on to me. But otherwise, and it'll be like something like that. But the mean spirited ones, they don't. I don't lead them. I mean like, what are you learning from it, right? You're not learning anything from it. It's just somebody saying it's a bad interview, and fair enough. It's like, maybe that interview they didn't like. It's like, you don't have to like something just because you spent 15 minutes on it. You gave me your time. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. I mean, you could have expressed it a little more politely, but whatever. So one of the things that I will never forget is the fact that in the early days of writing reviews, I used to watch a movie on Friday, get all of Friday evening and Saturday to think about it. And my deadline was Saturday evening. And so I had to publish my review on Sunday morning. So I could really analyze the shit out of that movie and put out like 1,200 word review on paper, which till then was unheard of, because till then papers carried only 300, 400 word movies. So one of my favorite letters from the Hindu is this guy who wrote a postcard who said, "Please stop Bharadwaj Rangan from writing reviews. He's not writing reviews of films. He's writing Ramayana and Mahabharata. Please stop, because we don't want to, like, we want to know what is photography like, what is acting like, what is this one like. We don't want to know anything else, what his personal thoughts about the movie are." So I have that letter. It's like one of my all-time favorite letters that I got. It's like
Isn't it amazing when someone spends so much time and effort to buy a postcard and then write all these thoughts and then mail it in? It means he's that much interested in you. That doesn't happen these days. It's like, it's so easy. If you're just frustrated, it'll just come out.
He's not interested in me. He's like so frustrated. I'm reading a newspaper and this guy's taken over column space that could be used in more constructive, interesting ways.
But I'm sure he's a fan by now. Whatever it is, wherever he is.
I don't think so, but I'll tell you what I find interesting, right? If we have the time, I'll tell you what I find interesting. Yeah. I find it interesting that just like there are people that like me, there are lots of people that don't like me. I find it very interesting that the don't like me people keep coming, reading or watching me, and keep commenting about how much they don't like me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do you do that? I'm happy you're giving me views, dude. This is like, YouTube is loving it. Every time you watch a 5-minute video of mine, YouTube is very happy and my company is very happy. But why? Life is so short. By the third time you realize this reviewer is not working for you, just get out of there and find somebody who does. Find a reviewer that works for you. No. I mean, like, let's say I'm an Ilayaraja fan and I don't like anything post Ilayaraja. I don't like Rahman. I like Ilayaraja. I want to publicize his music. I want to put YouTube videos of all his old songs on my tweets. Is making sense to me. Rahman sucks. Somebody, this one sucks. Nobody's made music. That is like what? I mean, I don't understand. That is what I'm trying to tell. It's like that, because anyway, everything is subjective, like in terms of art.
Yeah. No, I think instead of psychoanalyzing them, I think this is what I believe in, is that when you start getting negative comments, right, that is the time that you've started growing. I think that's like the sign of growth, because indifference is worse than negative comments.
Yeah. That's true. You don't want not to be noticed. You want to be like hated or loved, but never ignored. Yeah.
So if Ilayaraja fans are saying Rahman sucks, it means Rahman has grown that much. And otherwise, if he's not visible, no one's going to talk about him.
Yeah.
So I think that's like a positive takeaway. I guess that's how I look at it. So apart from you're at the stage where you've done video reviews, interviews, this thing, everything. What does the future look like for BR? How do you view the future? What is next for you? What do you aim to do in however long?
For me, the magic number is typically 5 years. I always look at the next 5 years as to what's going to be happening, what the trends are going to be. And I think you're going to be looking at me as somewhere in the screenwriting space.
Awesome. Is any announcement or anything being made, or can anything be made?
There's a different kind of announcement that you'll hear soon, but I've always been like, the reason I took up Kadar to Kalyanam in 2010, I think, when Milind offered it to me, was more to see if I could do it, and B, just to kind of put myself through the grind to see what it takes to do that kind of a thing, right? I loved it so much, the process that but I couldn't get into it because there was the regular job, and at that point, screenwriters used to get first-time screenwriters used to get paid like ridiculous amounts of money, like really bad amounts of money. Okay. And also most directors would want to write their own screenplay. Yeah. So they would pretty much say things like "Ninga எழுதி கொடுங்க, நாங்க வந்து பணம் கொடுக்கிறோம், ஆனா எங்க பேரை போட்டுக்கிறோம்," things like that and all that. So, and after so much of script doctoring that I've done over the years, and looking at people's scripts and things like that, I have that confidence that I can exist in this space, and so that's the next big step for me. But I'm still going to be doing interviews and videos and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I hope you never stop doing this.
What I like about the space is how much it's freed me up as a person. As an introvert who'd rather spend time reading than going out and playing with friends kind of person, to kind of make this transition where I'm easily conversing with somebody without, censoring words or thoughts, or should I say this or should I say that, or whatever it is. Like 2 years, uh, I don't know, 5 years back, if you asked me this question, should Kamal continue, or what do you think his view would be, I would have probably said, well, something very politically correct or something like that. But now, I feel comfortable saying that, well, I would like it to happen, but it's probably unlikely to happen. So, oh, I have to mention this, since I don't know if you're wrapping it up or whatever, but I just wanted to say this before one thing, because one of the things I'm proudest of, even though it's not really my thing, is that we envisioned Film Companion, and we envisioned a largely English speaking channel that would take
Yeah.
Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam cinema to hopefully out of the spaces it's usually confined in, and not just talk the regional local language. And so we've actually, as much as we've tried, and it's difficult to get good subtitlers, but at least the important interviews we've subtitled, and the reach has improved, and we've done that a lot. So I'm really, really proud of that, and the team that we work with at Film Companion South. They're called Zoetrope. They're a fantastic production house. They've become like family now, and yeah, that's something that I just have to say.
I really respect that, because most of the people who come onto YouTube, right? And it's fair, because they are solo creators, and then after a point of time it becomes about me, 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 me. But I think what one of the greatest thing that Film Companion is done is, like, it's approached it as a team. I won't say as a company. I'm always going to say as a team you approached it, and then you took these people. They are good at this. They're good at these shows. Created separate properties for them. Maybe some worked out, maybe some didn't. But you still have this approach of, we are doing it together. This is a production. There's all of these people involved, and the thing is, the audience also feeds into your ego a lot. They say that nothing else is important apart from this guy. Like, no one wants to know about your editor or this thing and all that. And it happens. I've seen it happen in a lot of different channels. It's always about the personality. So I really respect that when you mention your production company, and you acknowledge everyone's contribution to it. Have you ever thought about doing anything in the academic space for cinema? Like, I know you teach at Asian College, but yeah, but have you ever thought about creating something of your own, or being part of something that
hopefully soon, something that we do will be creating avenues for screenwriters, and bring in a lot of exciting screenwriting talent to the fore, that people who don't want to work in mainstream Hollywood, they have all these exciting stories and stuff like that. Hopefully something like that will happen soon. And
whenever you open this, like, I'd need help with my screenplay also, because I've not written a single page, but still. So
yeah,
I'll be sending in
you should.
For the last slide, you've played a variety of roles in your life.
Oh God!
Through the years.
So
you played Pablo Escobar.
I love this last look. I don't even know if it's my look that I had or something made.
That is my fantasy. I made that on Photoshop.
Oh, you made that up? Oh, that's fantastic. I should try that look. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you played Pablo Escobar. You played, I think, what looks like Saurabh Shukla. You played a young Modi ji, and then you played a heroine's dad, and then Marlon Brando. So very light, simple question. What is your favorite look from all of these?
This is my favorite look. I'll tell you, this is of course wisdom I've gained over the ages and not back then, right? I started balding very early. I started balding and graying very early, like in my 20s, right? It's like it's a family thing. You can't do shit about it. But then at that point, you're just weeping because you're standing in front of a mirror and like, oh my God, suddenly it became this look, and I always tell people who are I seem to gather people who kind of who are like terrified of losing hair or something like that. I said, see, there are only two choices you can do with it. Learn to live with it or take it off. Because or you don't want to become the third kind of person who buys toupees and wigs and has to. That's a very complicated you'll have to add 15 minutes to your day morning. But I'll tell you something, the freedom that it gives you is something unbelievable, because it's like thinking about all this takes away from your work, because it really affects a lot of other dimensions of your personality. I've always found that the more you take away, like, and I'm using this as an example, the more space you have actually need to be worried about.
I get what you're saying. This is like kind of like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, who wears the same color t-shirt every day so that they don't have to think about that aspect. Okay, let's take a short break because I just want to tell you a couple of things. Number one, if you're liking the chat so far, please consider hitting the like button. If you do this, YouTube will show it to even more people like you who can come and enjoy this as well. And number two, this podcast is sponsored by absolutely nobody. So I thought I'll talk to you guys about my brand. I'm going to plug in my own brand, which is Fully Filmy. If I can say so myself, Fully Filmy is one of India's biggest pop culture stores. So if you love movies or TV shows or any element of pop culture, there are a lot of cool and affordable t-shirts and posters and accessories and a lot more stuff. Recently, we just launched an official Loki collection. So if you're into superheroes, head on over to fullyfilmy.in, go get something for yourself, gift something for a friend, support the brand, and yeah. Let's get back to the conversation. Anyway, so like I have one last segment, not a rapid fire. It's just a few 2-mark questions. You can, but you have to answer short
questions.
2-mark questions. Like you don't have to think that much, It's like you don't have to go on like different
questions.
I don't know. I'm sure you'll do well. Okay. So this first question number one. If a friend from outside Chennai visits you for the first time to Chennai, where's the first place you take him?
Woodlands Hotel.
New Woodlands, below the Cathedral Road. Okay. Speaking of Woodlands Hotel, what is your comfort food and your comfort drink?
Comfort food and comfort drink are both things that I don't have anymore. Filter coffee and crisp medu vada. Like,
why do you not have them anymore?
I've just become a black coffee person because I try to avoid milk and sugar. So
okay. What is your all-time favorite interview that you've taken of someone?
Oh God, you'll have to give me a little bit of time to think. I can't.
You take all. I have time, so it's all.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to really think because it's been so many years and so many interviews that I would say recently. I would say S.J. Surya, because there has also been a personal connect with that interview. Something that happened after that interview that made that man blew my mind and again, that's what I'm saying. You can't do that over Zoom because you're catching the vibe of that person and taking, like, it's almost like a tennis match. You're playing tennis with that person, and that would be so. Yeah, I would say S.J. Surya. It would easily, even if I can't remember the top one, it'll be easily among the top 10. I'll tell you one of the best interviews that I did recently was with Rajisha Vijayan.
Yeah,
I did not expect this from her, and when I say that, it means, because things like acting, right, they're very difficult to talk about because neenga eppadi nadichinga is a very tough question to answer because, like, it's such an instinctive thing. They have to mug up their lines, they have to make their lines, the characters forget their own body language, change into the try to walk or talk like this other person, and then somehow make the line feel as if it was not scripted but it is being delivered by their own, therefore maybe adding a pause here or a pause there or something like that. But after 2 answers of Rajisha's, I threw away my questions and I was like, oh my God, this woman is amazing at explaining the acting process. I was stunned, Ronak. I was stunned. I was like, and she's not that senior an actor either. Like, she's not some Shabana Azmi who you would expect these answers from. Yeah. She was so clear and so amazing about explaining what the process is that I was happily, like, in her zone and saying, okay, I will let you take me wherever you want to go. It was, I mean, that's what we live for, because you want people to explain their process, because I feel that there are actors out there who are looking at Rajisha and going, oh, okay, so that's what that's all about. So, so I want to, so if I want to be an actor, maybe that's what I need to learn. And that's something that I need to get into, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
To see her explain it that way, when she could say that after doing a particular movie, she couldn't stop calling Jojo George Acha because, he played her father. It really made me weep because it's like that kind of that's the commitment that she's had to her role, that he literally became Achan to her. One of my big projects that we're doing right now is trying to collect all the what we think are the underseen and underappreciated interviews, because we know which ones didn't deserve the appreciation and got it, right? So we know the other way around also. Like,
Right.
people have said great interview, they've got great numbers, but we know not cutting it. It just something happened, the release of the movie, plus this, plus that, some multiple factors. So we are actually putting together a list of interviews that we think are really good, but for whatever reason did not get the thing love that
Recognition. Yeah. I really loved that Rajeshri interview. Like, it was, I knew nothing about her. I never seen June or anything. I just was so excited for Karnan that I watched everything about Karnan. And there was one thing that she mentioned, that it's something about how she writes letters to her characters or something. I was like, oh fuck, that is something that's
amazing.
something else.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Somebody seeing this would understand that there is more to acting than just standing in front of a camera after mugging up your lines. There's a process. You have to internalize that character. And this is how Rajisha internalizes a character. That's what I'm saying.
One person from history you'd like to have a beer with.
The inventor
doesn't have to be just films. Like, it can be anything.
The inventor of cinema, seriously.
Who's the inventor of cinema?
Edison.
The camera, you mean?
The camera, yeah.
Okay. One good thing, what good change that you've seen in the film industry, and one good change that you want to bring or you want to see happen in the film industry?
One good change I want to bring, and it won't be just me, it'll be like a bunch of people, I'm sure, is better screenwriting. One thing that I have been seeing that's a great sign is the emergence of directors with a very individual signature. And I think that's really the way to go, because the less generic you go, the more specific your film gets. And I think you could not have gotten a film like Master had Lokesh not been Lokesh, had it been, I'm not saying it's the most perfect film, it has some flaws, but what I'm saying is, after a very long time, there was a Vijay movie with a personality in it. There was a certain director's personality in it. And I think that's the best change that I'm seeing right now. Like, a lot of young filmmakers are making these films where you want to know, okay, beyond the screenplay, there is some sensibility there. That's the director. Who's the director? That's happening now.
What is one movie or show that every young person should watch?
I'm going to generalize this answer a bit. I would say take a movie that is from a very acclaimed director, but from the past, and is in black and white, and put yourself through it. And I say put yourself through it because I know you're going to find it difficult, and I know that, but I just want at least you to experience at least one time in your life what it's like to see Wild Strawberries or Cries and Whispers or any of those things that kind of, like, just, it may be very difficult. The pace is going to kill you and all that, but I don't know. It's just for once, like an exotic thing. I would like people to kind of just to say this is also cinema. That's all.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah.
Right. The most significant accomplishment of your life?
I would say being the architect of my own career, because when I came in. Left my job in the US, and like a spectacular job in the US, and I came back here and said I was going to start writing about films. Like many of my people in my family didn't even know that such a thing as film journalism existed. For them, it was like little bits of news in Tamil magazines or little snippets about actors having affairs with actresses or something like that. They didn't know that there was something called the thing that you introduced me by, that national award winner or whatever it is. The only value it has for me, because I seriously believe that any award that is over 10 years old is gone from your history. That's it. You can't count it anymore. It's gone. Like you have to re-earn or win some other award or something like that. You can't keep claiming some 10-year-old award as some accomplishment and all that. But that was the first time that the people around me suddenly thought, oh my God, this guy knows what he's doing. Suddenly, it gave respectability to my career. No, not people around me, as in the people reading the blog, all that was fine. I'm talking about family,
Right.
parents, that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
They finally realized that, oh my God, this guy finally, okay, whatever it is, okay, now go do whatever you want. It's like the president of India has given you some medal. It's a serious thing, you know. That's when you realize that it was also a moment of such frustration. You know, I've written these articles that at least at that time I thought were great articles about stardom and this and that and all that. Nothing convinced them. We're a country of chapas, you know. Like somebody puts a chapa on you and then suddenly you become this one person. It's like your work doesn't speak for itself. You need this recognition that suddenly makes you this person. I That's why the people I respect the most are the people who take these deep jumps into a void. You know, it's the scariest thing possible. And everybody who looks at my career today and thinks that, oh wow, and this and that, they have no idea about the sleepless nights and I'm sorry to be killing your show with this shit,
No.
but
I relate to every single thing in the sense I know I have a lot more to see, but what you're
yeah,
talking about, right?
yeah,
I'll get to that. Yeah. Sorry.
it's they don't know what it meant. Like the
Yeah.
people, the film journalists who came after me, they at least had me as a role model to say this person has done it, so I can do it, or I want to do it. Like what do you do when you're trying to do something that's only been done in America and in England and whatever, but never in India, at least in Tamil cinema. You know, it's such a lot of self-doubt and stuff. And initially people would be criticizing my analyses because you know, like I remember somebody saying things like making fun of me because I said in Ravan, Sita was like in the lie detector scene at the end and on the train, she's wearing white because you know she's, you know, her purity is being challenged
Questioned.
by
Yeah.
the Rama character, but Prithviraj is playing in Tamil. And they made like they just laughed about it. She's just wearing a white dress. Why can't you leave it at that and all that? So, but when Mani himself said in the book that yes, she was dressed in white because I wanted her to represent purity, I think the National Award and the Mani book were the two things that really shut people up because they're like, maybe this is a career. Maybe this guy does know what he's doing, you know, that kind of stuff. Because yeah, but yeah, I'm laughing, but there's a lot of shit like that I have really, if an
Yeah.
analyst, you know, could really have a field day with, you know, it's like
Yeah.
so
I completely relate because like the thing that you said about being the architect of your own career, right? In the sense, no one in my family, and I'm not trying to be braggy or anything about it, but I'm just calling it as it is. That everyone in my family has been like bank officers or something in the
yeah,
government or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so it took a lot to leave engineering and then come and start something. And then for a long time, though my mom supported me after a point, like after engineering, it's like, okay, fine, you do whatever the fuck you want. Because I was so driven and I was trying to create so many things. And I was like, just give me a few months. Let me just figure it out. And she's like, okay, fine. So I attended so many interviews, got a job, worked for 2 years in advertising, then started Fully Filmy. And then 1 year after Fully Filmy, because our office was one of our rooms at home. So mom used to see every day what we're doing without any money, without anything. We're just packing orders and everything and sending
Yeah.
to people. From start to finish, there was just three of us doing it. And then 1 year later, we opened our store at Phoenix Market City. So, and then there was such a huge crowd. And then I was looking for my mom and I couldn't find her because, of course, everyone is coming, right? Mom, brother, sister, all of those people. Then I found them and then I'm trying to say hi and then they were not responding. Then I realized that everyone is looking up at the store. Like, oh fuck, this guy made this. Like, of course, with so
Yeah.
many other people think that it's like a cushy life. All of these things, privilege. Yes, of course, there is a lot of privilege, but at the same time, there's so much that people don't see, right? There is so much pain and agony in terms of financial, in terms of dealing with managing people and everything. Yeah. So
Yeah. No,
I
people
really
always
relate.
see only the end result of
Yeah.
what you are, and I like I and really like you know, when I look at you and I look at other people, it's very inspiring because, you're all like really setting out and saying like, this is what I want to do. And I'm sorry, but this is what I got to do. And I know it's going to be painful, but I'm going to do it. But wanting something is not going to make it come through. It's like you said, I used to go to Ritchie Street and interview makers of tiles and things, because there was a magazine. There is still a magazine called Sourcing Hardware, and I used to freelance for them because writing reviews would only get me $500 per review. So you'd write 4 reviews a month. That's $2,000. You got to kind of make up money for a bit of that as well. So I used to do all that stuff. Today I still have those issues of sourcing hardware, and I'm should I just get rid of all that crap? And then some part of me would say, no, they are a part of your journey. It's kind of, you have to, all those electric socket makers that you interviewed, that's what supported
I should
you in
convert
those
them
days.
into NFTs, and then it'll bid for like 1 billion or something.
Seriously. It's not a special story. Many people in the world
Yeah.
have done this. So, but for you, your story is special.
Of course,
This is what-
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I tell you the 2 words, film poster, okay, movie poster, what is the first poster that comes to your mind?
Sholay.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is it because you love the film, or is it because that image is?
No, because I love the film. Obviously, I think it's one of the greatest screenplays ever written in India. But it's also because that poster was so dazzling. It's so 70 mm. It's like a huge thing, as opposed to all these things. And I have a real thing for painted posters. Hand painted posters.
Same.
So
I have this book which is full of those painted about the story of those painted movie posters. I don't know if you've seen it, but beautiful book. But yeah,
it's a beautiful book, and it's also a great reminder of how some arts can just die out. Like you go into something thinking that there is a future in it and it's your chosen field or something like that, and then I'm one thing that I always think about is when I was a kid, we used to have cameras with 24 film or 36 film or something like that. So you really had to make sure that the people who were posing were all opening their eyes, we're all standing facing the camera, we're all like in some behaviorally acceptable pose, socially acceptable pose, and then you said, I am going to click, and then you clicked, because it's like, you couldn't waste that one thing. And when I think of that industry, that going to the guy, getting it dropped off, picking it up again, and like seeing the actual photographs and all that, and today you can take zillions and zillions and zillions of photographs on your smartphone, and that entire industry has died. It's just mind-blowing to me that industry, because I have so many memories with the camera, and I've always loved using a manual camera, like the Leicas and the stuff. And to see now that I don't do that has been a big maybe that's one thing I would have added in my, if you had asked me, list of nostalgic things that you miss, I would have added manual cameras. Yeah.
And does this make you question your own relevance, like when you see these?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. It's like the people who wrote all these books, half of them are people like me who only like movies or whatever it is. So YouTube could become irrelevant in a few years. Podcasts could become the new thing. Something else could become whatever it is. It's like, see, that's why I said, I look for the next 5 years. And I really do not believe in like professional wise looking, those were the days and all that. Please, those were the days. Those days happened. Please be happy. They are gone now. That's like just talking about those are the days.
Yeah.
Look forward. Keep looking at the next 5 years or whatever, because you can't plan something for like a long time, because the world changes so quickly that I really feel one of the people that I one set of people that I really feel very sorry for are those who started a business when in early 2020. and were just about to get going. That got them their investors and this and that, and just kind of gotten going. And then, that year got wiped out, this year got wiped out, and you don't know that what can happen. So it's it's just be here, be happy, and then go, I guess. It's like
Super deluxe.
Instead of super deluxe, exactly. That's like that's my philosophy is summed up in a very complicated way, by a person I love, to Tyagarajan Kumar Raja. He's another lovely guy to talk to, and I love that guy. He's another crazy guy. Yeah, interestingly crazy guy. Just like I think all the people I love are a little touched. It's like that's what makes them special, and that's why I love them so much, because they're all little touched and different and nice in interesting ways, and not saying the usual cliched things.
But so
that includes you, Raunak. Don't feel bad.
Thank you, Priya. You didn't have to say it. I already assumed. But no, I was saying that's a great segue into what I was going to ask next. The last question that I have: if and when, I'd say when your movie is being made, in the sense a movie about your life, who would you want as a director of that movie?
Why? Why would anyone want to make a movie of a chemical engineer turned like me climbing a distillation tower would be like the interval block, and me looking down with tears in my eyes saying, "Oh my God,
never know.
Life is fucked." So
you never know how Akshay Kumar is going to take it and turn it into something else.
That's very funny, actually. Yeah, movie. I seriously would love Bhansali to make my movie, because the only way my life can be made attractive is by Sanjay Leela Bhansali. Otherwise, you have carbon and coal spewing from various things, and me wondering, "Oh my God, what is this place I've gotten into?" And,
Yeah. So. It's the time right now is 9:30, which means you've taken 3 hours out of your screenplay writing, your meetings, your reviews, and
no. It's been always a pleasure. So with Raunak, with you, I mean, I'll even give 5 hours, but if I go on after this, I'll faint out of hunger. So that is one thing I will not do.
Yeah.
But it's always a pleasure talking to you, simply because, like I said, I'm not, and I'm saying this on your show, but I really, really respect the drive that's brought you to where you are, and I think I hope you have many more milestones.
Hopefully. I just found out, recently that you're turning 50 this year, or you already turned 50 this year. So
I've turned 50.
You've turned 50. So I think for us to talk about your life, what you're going to do after this at this particular point of time is, I consider myself very lucky to get to this point after, whatever little things I've done to get to this point and talk to you about everything. I'm really grateful for that, and I'm grateful for your time. So I just hope you just never quit YouTube, and then of course I want you to create much bigger, much better things also, which I know you're going to do, and I know you're going to help so many other people, become creators. So thank you for everything.
I hope I'm able to do that. So thanks so much.
Thank you again, Bial. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. See you, man.
Okay, so that's it for this episode of The Canteen with Bharadwaj Rangan. I hope you really liked the conversation as much as we did. And if you did, I hope you've already hit the like button. Please also consider sharing it with someone someone who might enjoy this as much as you. Let me know your favorite part of this conversation in the comments. Also, let me know who else I should feature on the upcoming episodes of The Canteen. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Please stay home. Please stay safe. Get vaccinated as soon as you can. I'll see you next week.